I think because what you guys are doing here, you want to get like, down to the nitty gritty. You want to like behind the scenes stuff. Like everyone sees the show, right? The discovery, but let's talk about the journey.
Yes, yeah.
I'm trying to be here every
week.
week.
You cry.
I'm gonna be here every
We're gonna go as long as we can to get this story out. This is so important
until Rihanna comes on.
When I'm up, then we all win. Hopped off the bench, now I'm balling.
Hey man, I'm a little nervous. Are you nervous, bro?
Just a tad bit, just a little bit.
Man, I don't know. I ain't really had an episode like this where I feel like a little nervous. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's because the guests we have on.
I have it's really big, my guy.
I don't know if it's because it's like the Super Bowl, maybe your team. I don't know what it is, but
Riri Sunday,
I don't know what it is, man. Whatever it is, man. I think it's indicative that something special is happening.
Something big today. Something happened big today.
Yeah. Hey, we tapping in. We are live right now. We on episode number 5 of We All Win. And joining us on set today, man, is someone very, very special.
Yes.
Like one of the premier creatives in our culture.
Yes. It's present.
No, for sure. Like someone that is very well highly regarded in terms of carrying the culture across the world and being just an iconic figure for our people.
Hands down.
Man, the resume is so long that I won't even put it in the intro because it's going to take so long. We'll dive into it as we go, man. Yes. But give a big warm welcome for our good friend, our very own Tiana Nonosina Liufau.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me. Today, love and happy Rihanna Bowl.
Yeah, really.
Bad part.
Nah, man, how you doing? How's life been for you?
Life it's been good. I mean, just as everyone else, a lot of ups and downs, but that's what makes, the discovery that much more real, right? Yeah. And today I just feel blessed, and I always get kind of like Ma a little bit during intros, and I think that is something that is actually very Polynesian.
Definitely.
Because we're taught to be humble and practice humility. Then at the same time, we're like slapped around like be proud. So confused.
Like, how does this
it's
work?
like both.
Yeah.
That's life. But yeah, thank you for your kind words. I always feel like
yeah.
But it's true. It's true.
It's true.
So we always want to give you your flowers.
Oh man, thank you. Yeah. This is making my day.
No, man, you're someone that has like just been a figure that has been spoken of a lot just on our culture in general. Yes. And when we were thinking about people that we want to tap in with, man, we're like, man, if we ever get a chance to sit down with you, and then when you actually reciprocated the love back and showed interest in coming on, we were like, man, like we actually did something. We actually doing something. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We're actually making a difference in the world. Yep. If someone like you wants to come on our show, man. So it's a big honor of ours for real.
Oh no, thank you. And it's what the dope part is. You're so local. You know what I mean? And
for sure.
And familiar faces. I'm totally gonna quote FUBU, but for us, by us, vibes. And to me, that's everything. So thank you guys for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Man,
it's good.
I mean, you touched on something right off the bat that we've had so many conversations around. This idea of being Polynesian and being humble and being practicing humility, right? But at the same time, being proud and embracing your gifts, embracing the talents that you have, and kind of balancing those two worlds. A question that I was already thinking about on the way here is, as a woman, that's a whole different thing. Being a woman, right? Being a Polynesian woman. Mm-hmm. And then working in the business world where you interact with so many different people in businesses. How do you manage? How do you kind of balance, being quote unquote humble and practicing humility, but also you're a woman, so you got to talk your shit when you need to and let them know, like, I'm not just
true that.
You know what I'm saying? How do you balance that?
In all honesty, and I consider myself on the creative side to be a drummer first. That's such a male-dominated realm. Mm-hmm. In all honesty, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. I never really walk into a room or situation or a project where I'm thinking, I'm a female, or when I have to teach men or drumming, I never think like, oh, I'm a drumming, but I'm a girl. I actually enter every situation as I'm an artist first. Mm-hmm. And right alongside artists, in all honesty, humbly I say this, but extremely proud, is I'm Polynesian. Mm-hmm. So specifically speaking, we're all one, but I'm Samoan, I'm Hawaiian and Tongan. I think along those lines first. And then on top of that, I honestly rely on the teachings of our ancestors to help guide me, to help guide this va'a in any situation. So, no matter, I deal with all walks of life in different realms and sometimes it's intimidating. We might not
Yeah.
speak the same language. I look completely different from you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm pretty much brought in to introduce culture
Mhm.
or, add a little, maybe I'm hired purely for that.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I never second guess. I'm gonna use a Hawaiian reference. We say na'au is like what kind of like your gut feeling is what you feel here.
Mhm.
It's very Polynesian. I love teaching my dancers this. It's actually more of a Western way of saying, oh, from the bottom of my heart,
Right.
I love you from my heart. And definitely that's a beautiful thing. Polynesian way of thinking is it's here. Why? Because this is where life comes from. This is what connects us to our mother and Mother Nature. This is, this is such a sacred part. So I rely on that gut feeling and what's in my na'au to help guide me. And I don't really put labels on myself. And I feel like that's worked for me as a creative. I enjoy being a woman. I love being woman, female, that energy. But I prefer, sorry, everyone I teach, but I love teaching
Yeah.
boys and men.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, from the minute they walk in, I don't ever shy away. Like I'll go extra hard for the movement. And then immediately it cuts the barrier. Like I'm woman and I'm female, you're male. It's like, no. I'm your teacher. I'm your guide. This is movement. It's genderless. So I don't know if I'm going off. You're gonna have to stop me many times.
Nah.
But I just approach each situation like I'm representing for my people.
Yeah.
For sure.
Male,
Yeah.
female, whatever you identify. Because nowadays,
Yeah.
I don't even know. I'm just
Yeah.
like, hey,
Yeah.
and leave it at that. But I enter every room like that, and also the teachings of our ancestors. They left us so many treasures.
For
So
sure.
it's up to us to tap into that, and they're with us. They're right here, right? We're sitting here. They're behind us. We're standing on their shoulders. But it's up to us to tap into that vibration and then act right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
heavy responsibility too. You know.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I want to fall short and act stupid, and I'm like, okay, wait. And I know like ancestors right there. Not only that, I teach a lot of kids. I teach
Yeah.
a lot of kids. That's where my heart is. And so, just having that responsibility, there's a lot of pressure. I'm human.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I've always wanted someone like that growing up as a Polynesian kid.
Mhm.
And on my dad's side, first generation born and raised here, there's a whole lot of, I don't want to say issues, but there's a lot of dynamic to that.
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
so proud. And then I'm in the realm of Polynesian music and dance and cultural practice. But then at the end of the day, like I was born in Anaheim,
Yeah.
Right.
So, people back home might be
Mhm.
like,
That's
huh?
a topic right
for
there.
sure.
And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
could talk about that
Yeah.
for days.
Yeah. Just going back to like kind of the resume and you being a person to represent the culture, especially in like on movie sets and films
yeah.
and things like that. What have been some of your favorite projects being able to be on that side and just like, curating the culture for these people?
Ooh. This might sound really cliche, but in all honesty, I would have to say Disney's Moana.
Mm-hmm.
However, I was I don't want to say skeptical, but I've thought of all angles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, after consulting with my family, my mentors, it was just like, hey, I come from such a long line of cultural practitioners through music and dance. If who, like I think as Polynesians, we always feel like we're not worthy enough, we're not
Mhm.
enough, and so it's just like, man, maybe someone else might be better for the job, but just that process, I was very like, I knew I had to. I don't want to walk in there being bright-eyed, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
oh yes, we could
Right.
do that, yeah. So I had to question a lot of things, and if I didn't know the answer, I would find out the answer. But having their oceanic trust with other experts, like you have people from the Suluape line to consult with the tattoos there.
Mhm.
We have Nainoa Thompson, who is master navigator from Hokulea and all those voyages, and just kind of like honestly, it wasn't. So the reason why I'm mentioning this, it wasn't so much working for Disney and the Moana project. Honestly, it was the smallest oceanic trust, and knowing that I was a part of this trust alongside these people that I've looked up to my whole life.
Wow.
To me,
Mhm.
I felt like, dang. Oh, and let's not talk about Te Waka. If we're gonna talk about music,
Mhm.
they couldn't have got a better team. Te
Mhm.
Waka to represent the music.
Mhm.
Man, I think that meant more to me because I'm like, we actually have people that come from long lines of practitioners in
Yeah.
our field.
Mhm.
And then that to me was to be put on Disney. I feel like Disney runs the world, but
Yeah.
to be together, and they really did their research. And honestly, the questions they had when I would create movement was amazing to me, because we can't write it off like, they don't know. Oh,
Yeah.
that should have been us. Oh, that. Are you working with a bunch of palangi? Like, just that kind of
Right.
mentality. I'm like, yeah, but guess who's answering their questions? Me and a whole oceanic trust.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the questions that they had, and then the research that they did, a lot of people don't know. I was really impressed, to be honest. So I think that was like my favorite thing to work on. It was to look beside my right and my left and look at some of these figures in from the triangle and be like, whoa,
Yeah.
we're doing something.
That's so beautiful. I feel like we get a lot of like we lose the history, and you bringing up like all of these long lines of practitioners and like being able to be a part of that circle. I feel like I was just talking to my cousin about how like even the tatau and how we've lost so much of that history, and because of colonizers like making it seem like we should be ashamed of like showing it, and then like we don't feel like we have the right to get it when it's for everybody.
Yeah.
So like things like that, what are some of the things or like histories that like you like to teach, or that
Bring
are
back,
like
or-
your mantras that like you always want to like instill in like your kids and
Ooh.
stuff?
Oh my gosh, is this interview gonna be long enough?
Hey,
Like,
we can go as long as we want to, man.
you touched upon something that actually like it vibed with me about our tato, and then we are in a society where almost you can't even get hired. Like, people have stopped me
Oh my gosh.
back in the day when I was like in college, and she was a lot thinner. But anyway, like people would stop me and be like, "Oh my gosh, like honey, like what are these tribals?" And to me, I'm like, "Oh, this is my chance to kind of talk story with them."
Yeah.
And then so many times they're like, "Aren't you nervous about getting a job?" And in my head, I was like, this is my job. Like,
Yeah.
this is my responsibility. But for me, what I was thinking about is even the word tattoo that we use so commonly here on the continent. It's like our people birthed that word.
Yes.
That is one of the words that we contributed to this language that everyone uses freely. So I feel like we deserve that right to wear the markings of our ancestors. Our language was never meant to be written, was never meant, to be used the way that we use it. So oral recitation, chants, songs, tattoos, this is our language. And so we want to show it, we should, but along with that comes responsibility. The person wearing it should definitely know like the why or the meanings behind the markings. And I don't know, I think I do have to talk to my dancers a lot about the art of tattoo, because especially if I can make it specifically because Samoa, man, we have so much protocol with our Monu Samoa and our Pi'a, and even with the Hawaiian, they have their kako, and you can't even get it unless you present your genealogy generations back. And I'm not talking 3 or 4, I'm talking I think like 11 or something. But with one of my specialties is with Tahitian music and dance, and it's so popular now. And good and bad, right? Because I think a lot of people get away with, now we're getting into some dance stuff.
Yes.
A lot of people can get away with a lot.
Yeah.
And then not only as far as movement, dance, musically, but even tattoos. So I have seen a trend where a lot of dancers, they love Tahitian dance so much. They love the Polynesian culture, more of a broader sense. So then I want to get the markings on my body. And I mean, I don't live your life, but I only control you when you step foot in my dance studio.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I am your father. No, I'm kidding. But I do tell them like, hey, you should know where this comes from.
Yeah.
And that this actually means something to us. And I always have to tell them too, it doesn't mean the more inked up you are, the better dancer you are. Come on now.
That part.
You
It's a
can
very
love the
sacred
culture,
thing
but
we're
know your
doing
role.
to our body,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's very sacred. Our
sacred.
body is the temple. And so is our own temples. So, but one thing that I do love teaching, and this is very touchy, but I was hoping we kind of talked about it a little bit, that when we, in my position being a cultural dance teacher, we cannot water down Polynesian culture to appease everyone.
Say
It gets
that.
really
Yes, a fact.
touchy. It gets
Yes.
really touchy because
Yeah.
when we say, so I'm going to give you an example. In Tahitian, one of the songs I'm teaching now, we say Nu'uatua. Nu'uatua is the assembly of gods. Keyword is the S that makes it plural, gods. So I have to always kind of like read the room, respect everyone's faith. My family is actually very active members of the LDS Church. And I have to be very cautious because especially Samoa and Tonga too, we are
Yeah.
so embedded in
Yes.
church and it's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
But at the same time, I cannot call myself a cultural teacher if I'm also just, if you imagine going to a grocery store and just picking little things to appease everyone's
Yup.
needs and to keep things safe.
Mhm.
So I always tell the dancers, oh no, we're not, we're not like converting to anything because that's a very
Tough.
that's a whole
Yeah.
responsibility in itself. That's
Yeah.
very much living and practiced in Polynesia.
Mhm.
But I'm not gonna water down the culture and just have it from a lens from the outside. Like I think that a responsibility for us is to normalize that. And it's not like making it taboo, but
Mhm.
you know, when I explain things, I'm not gonna say, oh no, and then we're talking about Heavenly Father here. It wasn't written like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to bring you away from your relationship from whomever, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And but I am here to tell you, like, actually, we are people from the land, we are people from the earth, and we do have these elemental gods. Like in Hawaii, we have Pele, we have Kanaloa, Alter Polynesia, Ta'aroa, Tangaloa,
Mhm.
Hina, Maui. So it's a beautiful thing. Now let's talk
Yeah.
about, you do like Greek classics 101, Greek mythology, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes it gets so tapu, like, oh,
Mhm.
we can't talk about
Or like
that.
astrology
Yeah.
and crystals.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
But actually, that's so organic and it's so indigenous that predates anything that was ever written. So, and it's not to convert anyone or to make you feel some
Yeah.
type of way, but like, no, this is actually, we are rooted in this.
Mhm.
Yes.
So if it's mentioned in a song, I don't care if you're 4 years old or 400, I'm gonna let you know this is the real meaning.
Mhm.
So in what I do, the dance teachers, we need to make sure that we are, and I'm holding myself accountable to doing our research and not just
Mhm.
doing choreography, for lack of a better word, word for word. It's like, no, there's that underlying meaning. There's that
Mhm.
underlying, what's the essence of this? So
Mhm.
when we say, man, I don't want to go off too much, but there's like in one word, it might be translated as, like I told you, love.
Yeah.
And then you might
Mhm.
do motion from here. But if you really want to dig deep and talk about culture, like for me, I'm going to do love from here. If you're talking
Mm.
about a love for your cultural identity, I'm not going to do it from here. I'm going to
Mhm.
do it. Actually, I'm going to do it from here. This is where we believe mana and knowledge is passed down from our ancestors, which is why we wear a lot of things around our head.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. Our heiupo'o, our lehulu, whatever it may be. It's to allow those spirits, that knowledge to be received. And then I'm going to do motion here because this is where we feel from and then where we give life to the story, to our genealogy, to our ngafa, whatever it may be. I'm going to stop talking right now.
No, it's fine.
No,
So,
no, you're doing great.
So because a lot of things you talked about are things that we were going to bring up at some point. So
Yeah.
you kind of opened the door for a lot of things, but I wanted to touch on one thing in particular was talking about the sacred responsibility of carrying the culture forward, right? And that's a very important thing, especially in our generation, because so many things get lost or watered down, right? So bringing it forth in the way that it was originated, right? But you strike me as someone who has that just ingrained so deeply within you. Was there a particular, I know you have a rich history to your family goes back many, many generations with this, but can you pinpoint a particular point in your life where that, I don't know, switch or realization came to your mind that this is my lifelong journey?
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how did
Mhm.
you come to that point?
Oh, man. I'm going to keep it a buck. And I'm not even just trying to give you answers that would be like really great for ratings or or likes or keeping it PC. No, in all honesty, from the moment I entered this realm,
Mm.
I'm going to be honest with you. In my family, we always say, we dance before we walk. Like
Mhm.
we're in the womb and like at listening to the vibrations of these drums, listening to the words of our ancestors in song form or whatever it may be. We are literally born and raised in doing it, but I've known my whole life that this is what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to be the best. I just wanted to be an instrument.
Mm.
I want to be instrument for the Polynesian culture, and I feel like my calling is honestly to be an introduction for many people to fall in love, but also respect our culture. And that was my grandma's whole mission. She's born in American Samoa, Falingiu. And then she moved over to Laie, Oahu. And then over here, And the only thing that she said there's two things she brought with her from the islands, and it was her testimony. She was a very active member of her church, and then her love for her culture through music and dance.
Yeah.
But she low-key didn't always have a home.
Mm.
So she wanted to create a home outside of home or the Polynesian Triangle to welcome anybody, all walks of life. So the moment you walk through those doors, you know what I mean? You take off those shoes, then your family.
Yeah.
So I keep that in mind. I don't even know where I was going with that. Every time I talk to my grandma, I go to like a different place. But that's my everything.
That's a great
Yeah.
That's my everything. She's always been my why when she was alive and when she joined the realm of the ancestors. But I've known always. I've always known, and I think that keeps me going because I mean, hello, I have a life and I'm human outside of my dance studio. Even though all eyes are on me, for these kids, they like look up to me, and I don't take that lightly. But those days where sometimes I'm like, dang, it has been a day, and I still got to slap on a smile and go. And everyone has to feed off of your energy or your manda. That's what everyone wants to seek. But I have to also seek it myself. But what keeps me going, in all honesty, is like, man, I know my calling here, and I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. So I slap myself a couple of times. Don't be a little B. Keep going.
Can I just say, like, having those kind of conversations that you're sharing with us are very refreshing, because I think just the way you carry yourself, the spirit that you embody, it's above like the material things of this world, like the money, the car, the
Yes.
fames, all the things that people kind of get distracted with. When we cut to our essence, right? We're spiritual beings, right? And we're connecting ourselves through dance, through all these different methods, right? And having that conversation with you, it kind of brings it back full circle. Like we have all these ambitions, whether you want to be an athlete or entertainer, right? Whatever. But at the core of who we are, we're spiritual beings. And you kind of bring that to a full circle through dance and being reminded, hey, like, don't be distracted by all these glamorous things. Like we this is who we are right here, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Is that always can that be hard sometimes because there's so many different things that you want in life, right? So many
Yeah.
different ambitions, but what kind of keeps you grounded here?
Yeah, especially being based here, right?
Yeah.
I was born in
In the
Orange
thick of
County.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then at 17, I moved out to LA. So Westwood, Brentwood area, and then I lived in South Bay, LA. And I'm saying all these things because I've been able to really, in all my different journeys and chapters of life, what has kept me rooted is, in all honesty, Nonosina. And I don't mean Nonosina as if it's the only dance studio or
Right.
it's the only, whatever. When I say Nonosina, it encompasses all the teachings that come with it. And yeah, man, I've I've gone astray many times. We won't talk about that. No, I'm kidding.
We're only human.
Yeah. That's what I keep telling myself. No. But what really does keep me grounded and rooted is honestly the stories, the music, the dance. Oh man, I struggle with expressing myself, not when we talk about culture, music, or dance, but like as a human.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm pretty sure with a lot of my friends and family of Polynesian background, or even just indigenous, in the household, that's not always normalized, is expressing your feelings and knowing how to. And so therefore, we do a really good job of just tabling a lot of things, but also, in a very like Fasa Moa way, it's like, you ain't gonna talk. It's just like, and there's sometimes no explanation. You're just supposed to know. But then where I keep rooted and kind of seek refuge in is honestly the movement and the music. Like I can, if I'm feeling some type of way, not that I'm going to take it out on the drum, but once I start drumming, it kind of like cleanses myself. And even while I'm drumming, I'm having these conversations in my head that I don't maybe have the courage to say to an elder or to an authority figure, or even to, a friend or in a relationship. Like it kind of helps guide me feel more centered because I don't know how to contain myself sometimes. So, and then through creating movement and dance, I seek refuge in creating shapes using the human body because sometimes I don't know how to express in that way. So what keeps me grounded and rooted is sometimes I can make the dumbest decision ever, like going out, but knowing that I'm like, my 5 o'clock class, my kids that wait there, they come early, they're waiting at the window, they put on their ear, their patio, they're practicing their songs. They're like, honestly, that keeps me going. I don't have human children of my own yet. She's 41. I don't know how that's gonna happen.
It'll happen.
and my preference, but I do have 2 dogs. But just knowing that kids depend on you, you know what I mean? That alone, that's not
Yeah.
even a cultural thing. I think it's a
Yeah.
human thing.
No, for sure.
Man, that keeps me like
in line and going.
it
for
really
sure.
does.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are gonna carry on the legacy.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not that you even have to do anything back with Nonosina, but I want them to take these teachings that they learn from the Polynesian culture through life.
Yes.
Mhm.
Through life. It's not just a Polynesian thing, but I'm blessed that it's through the lens of a Polynesian
Yes.
Yeah.
way of life that you learn something. So that's what kind of keeps me, got to keep myself in check because sometimes you be getting crazy.
I have like kind of a hot take just to like throw it in there just for a little mix in there.
Ooh.
Should Polynesian dances be taught by a non-Polynesian?
Oh,
Hot take. There's no right or wrong answer. We have her here. I'm just
Let's
like,
talk
might as
about
well.
it. Let's talk about it. That's what we're here for.
Hey, what's
Let's
that
talk about it.
siren?
I know.
Rubber band.
I
Let's
know,
talk
press
about
it,
it.
press
Let's talk
it.
about it. Let's talk about it. All right. Let's
Hot
get it.
take.
That is a hot take.
We can start first. Do you think so, Shane?
Me?
Yeah. Hot take.
Man,
Yes or no?
I think it goes down to man. I want to hear from you, but my short and summarized answer is going to be I think if they have the proper knowledge and if they have the proper intentions and if they come from a place of they genuinely understand the culture and they
Mhm.
understand the history and all that things and they are inspired by that and want to share that knowledge with other people. That's
Mhm.
my take on it. You know what I'm saying? That's just me.
Dante?
And I would actually have to agree with him. And that's
Okay.
just my take as a dancer. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I really do believe like through movement and through like I'm gonna double back on it later after this conversation because
Mhm.
it stuck out to me. But if you are properly bred into it, then I
Mhm.
believe. Look, if you know your knowledge and you know what, if you're gonna teach what we would teach as a Polynesian person, I think that's okay. I think that's okay.
Okay. I'm gonna keep it a buck as well. And I'm gonna say no.
Mm.
But here's my thing with that. Especially because like maybe sure like if you're of another culture, I'm just trying to say like if you're white, no, I don't think so. I don't think anybody who's not Polynesian could understand the experience and the spirit that like we live on a day-to-day basis to be able to call to those like the spirit like gods and like things like that to where you can really teach and like form somebody. So like I feel like sure if you are at the YMCA and you're just teaching a little hula class, whatever. But if you're trying to actually compete and you're trying to be serious about this, like this is something that is very like
It's within
know,
the roots of it all.
yeah. So I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
Okay.
I love that. I respect that.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. So first I'm gonna talk about something that is like pertinent to me that is going to answer this question. I am Polynesian, definitely. I feel like I look it. And I carry the last name Liufau. I carry the last name Tangaloa. I carry the last name Reed. I carry the last name Su'opaia.
Mhm.
I'm just really talking about more so my Samoan side, but I also have been, for lack of a better word, we're over here in Long Beach, so put on blast before.
Mhm.
I'm like, girl, don't even try to sound so scholarly. Just say it. Because where my specialty is from a different island.
Mm.
My specialty is in what we say oriteiti. It's Tahitian dance and music.
Mhm.
I am versed in other islands, but my specialty is Tahitian. And people have felt away because they're like, well, that's not your lineage. You're not Tahitian. And I'm like, okay, no, I mean, I see what you're saying. But the teachings, okay, when we talk about Tahitian, there's a lot of basic steps and technique that are movement based, but the essence and the teaching of it is very Polynesian universally. So then on top of that, I don't mean to sound all any kind, but like at the same time, I can show my face in
Yep.
Tahiti and not to be, I think it's good to be proud, but then there's a borderline where there's ignorance too. Not to be ignorant or arrogant, but my whole life I've been going back to Tahiti and consulting with mentors and the people, and sometimes not even just to benefit for Nonosina or what I do, to simply breathe the air,
Yeah.
get my feet wet in the water, the sand, to even just be in the marketplace and observe how the local people interact, their facial expressions, all those nuances.
Mhm.
To me, I actually don't go there to study music and dance. I go there to observe. I go there to support. I go there, for those reasons, and that helps me create because it comes from a different place. it's not, oh, I want to learn this piece of choreo so I could take it home and teach it. No, like, girl, I got to do that on my own.
Yeah.
So I've been put on blast, like, hey, you're not Tahitian. But at the same time, if me and you go to Tahiti, I'm almost positive they're not going to really know who you are. And it's not, you know, to like put you on blast, but it's like, no, there's a lot behind the scenes and root stuff that are going on. And attending these different cultural events, not even just competition, but, you know, protocols and protecting sacred spaces, that to me, that is far beyond the popularity of dance.
Yeah.
You know, it's because of these things that we are able to even have a dance studio.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it's not about a workshop, dance choreo workshop. Like, what about you go to the in Tahiti Mara, and it's like a sacred space, and just be there, help clean it up, pick up trash on the beach. Like, that is actually doing something that's far more important than you thinking if I should teach dance or not. So there's that. When we bring it to here, now we're based in Southern California, right? You have people specifically teaching talking about dance groups, because let's if we talk about Super Samoa, it is very much protected and I don't want to say perpetuated, because I feel like that's when something's extinct, but we're very much alive and thriving. But it's very much in the hands of our Samoan people, you know. And then when you look at the Taulunga as well, or Punakes for Tonga, it's very much in the hands of people that come from Tonga. When you look at Maori groups, it's very much in the hands of, you know, look at hula.
Yeah.
One thing I really do love about the hula ram is they are kia'i, they're protectors. It is very much in the hands of Hawaiian people that are very well versed into protocol. Tahitian, in which a lot of people deem as, like hula dancers, but it's actually, they're probably thinking about Tahitian. I do feel that a lot of people kind of wake up and like, I want to start a group, and then start a group, but it's like, girl, there's so much more. One thing that you said that I completely, that I do agree with is, if you don't understand the meaning, let's talk about tapa, the fabric of the Polynesian people. If you don't know what it took, or what plant that came from, and the process of making tapa, and then how they have like clubs of tapa makers that sit there, cross their legs, and then they create chants to help beat, you know, the tapa, and piece that together. And if you don't know that it's an extension of Mother Nature and it's just to adorn your body as a costume, then you're missing the whole essence. And I do think us as Polynesians, whether you dance or not, we see tapa, or siapo, or whatever it may be, we see it at weddings, we see it at funerals, we see it at CEs, we see it, you know, adorned in our homes in frames. These come from such long lineage, like from the lines of our ancestors. This was the fabric of our people. It's present at a lot of very Polynesian things that don't have to do with dance. So if you don't understand that, and then you just want to, you know, use it for a costume and cut it all up, and then like there's a costume change, you throw it aside, to me, you miss the whole cultural context of it. And so I do agree that it is very difficult if you're not brought up in sometimes Polynesian ways. Some things can't be explained. We just know. We just know. You know what I mean? Like for us, I don't need to, I'll walk in front of a room of people that are not Polynesian. I might not say too low, but I will literally like lower myself and walk. It's just the unspoken thing. We just know. So in dance, I think it gets very tricky, because a lot of people, especially with Tahitian, there's a lot of routines you make with just drum beats, but no words. Once you take out the language, you take out a lot of the cultural essence. So even in Tahiti, they create these rhythms and beats, and you can create dances, but they always have a story to it. Here, I find that a lot of times they create, innovate, but you're like a tree with no roots. You know what I mean? You have a bunch of branches and fruit and whatever, but you are like barely hanging in there because you're not rooted in the tradition. And in tradition, I don't mean dance. I mean the cultural teachings. So that's where it gets tricky. So if you are brought in, I do know a lot of people who are not of Polynesian blood, but they were adopted by Polynesian families, and they could speak. They can state their, adopted family, their lineage, their genealogy, and they know. But I will say there is something very special about Polynesians who teach anything Polynesian, because it is in our DNA. It's a blood that blisters in our veins, and it's mana. It's so organic. And that's why when we see our brothers from Aotearoa do the haka, man, you get chicken skin. It makes me want to cry. When I see, you know, once I hear the ingi for Samoa, man, na 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 na.
Yeah,
you know, I'm
Then
up.
I start
You know a song.
right.
Yeah.
I get really emotional,
Mhm.
and it's those things. It's like we grew up, and it reminds us of our grandparents, and then their grandparents, and
Yep.
it taps into something that you cannot teach, and
Yep.
it's honestly that mama, that blood, that DNA that we
Mhm.
have. And if we are teaching something and calling it Polynesian, we do have to present raw stuff like that.
Yes.
And sometimes it can't be taught.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So yeah.
Hot take. That was a
Yeah.
good
That
one.
was a
That
good
was-
hot
that was
take.
good.
That was
That
a
was
great
good.
hot take.
That was you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she come out of nowhere with those hot takes.
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
yeah.
be
Nah,
like,
I'll be like,
Careful.
okay, I'm not ready, but I'm ready. You know what I
That's
mean?
that ocean side. Ooh, coming in hot.
Good stuff, sis.
No side or
Nah.
no side.
I love all y'all from my side.
I want to touch on something. You've had a lot of opportunities to do many different projects with different
Yeah.
big, small, medium, everything in between. And you talked about Moana, right? And your initial red flags that went up. I think as a culture, when we see, they were like, wow, they got it right? They did the research, but a lot of times they don't get it right. You know what I'm saying? A lot of
Mhm.
times they have ill intentions or they have different
Mhm.
motives, right? How do you decide what jobs to take, what projects to take on?
Wow, no one's ever asked me that. Actually, all the questions you guys have been asking, no one really asks. I think because what you guys are doing here, you want to get down to the nitty gritty. You want to
Yeah.
behind the scenes
Yes.
stuff. Like everyone sees the show, right?
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
discovery,
They don't know
but let's talk about the journey.
to it all.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to be here
Let's-
every
let's
It's
week.
okay if you cry.
Let's get it.
I'm gonna be
We
here every
we're gonna
week.
go as long as we can to get this story. This
Yes.
is so important
Until
for our
Rihanna
people.
comes
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I'm like,
know
sorry,
the
I got
vibes.
another 2 hours. I'm
You know
sorry.
the vibes.
Wait, girl, focus. Hold on,
Yeah.
because the ADHD is real.
I feel that.
That's
Yeah.
another topic too. That we don't normalize as Polynesians. But anyway,
Did you just get salsa for?
you just brought back like my whole
That's a cure
childhood.
for everything.
Nah, for real.
And when you even said that, I was like, "Oi!"
You see? Oh, it's funny you say that. I just had a video on my
He's
Instagram
saucing this kid on over
that
here.
just this guy that just went viral for it was my son. He was going through his flashcards.
Mhm.
He said the first 2 words and then the last word was a belt. And then he looked at his mom and said Sasa.
Oh, I saw that.
You saw that?
I saw
That was my son. So I'm sitting here dying about it because it's hilarious, right? I'm like, I don't even Sasa my kid with the belt. So I'm like, how the hell did he even know
Dante,
what that
B
was?
B100. It's
I'm
okay.
B100.
We
I
all
used
been
to
there.
slipper.
He said, "It's the head."
It's the head. I don't know. I don't know who hit you with a belt. It wasn't me. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it's funny you say that.
That's
You know,
your
like
son.
being
That-
Sasa.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I literally sent that to like 5 different people, and okay, that's you.
my
That's
son.
funny. Yeah.
I love it.
Dante going viral. Okay.
It's my son.
That's why
It's
he
just him.
decided to come late today. He think he's too big.
I was only
To be
five.
on
I was
time,
like 5
because
minutes
this one
late.
video went viral.
5
No, I'm
minutes.
just
He
joking.
said, "Talk to my agent, my son." How do I take on? And I'm so glad you asked that because I'm not going to name any names, but I have turned down a lot of projects where people would jump at.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the reason being is because I know the mission that we have at Nonosina, and even just personally.
Mhm.
So just because, some artist wants to feature us in a music video,
Yeah.
the first thing I ask is like, what language is it in? Because it makes a difference. Just because, this artist is big and the beat go, it doesn't make sense that there's Polynesian dancers in there. Like it doesn't. And once you objectify certain, like women actually, and then there's a bunch of other things where I'm like, that has nothing to do with what I teach at Nonosina. So I
Mhm.
say no. And then it's all about the content and then their mission. Like, what is your vision for this? But also, it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be like, oh, what? But this is like the top artist right now. But I never wanted to make it in your world anyway.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because you don't got to answer to the cultural people in the cultural field. I do.
Yes.
Yep.
And now I'm putting my dancers in a compromising position. They'll be stoked.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if I care about you the way I say I do, and if I'm
Yeah.
a cultural person, then it's really easy. I said nope.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But maybe there's someone else out there that is more geared towards entertaining and performance aspect,
Mhm.
which is fine for them, but that's not us. So I was raised with a very strict grandma and dad.
Mhm.
My dad's from Western Samoa, and in all honesty, like that has really like helped mold me into, you know what I mean, sticking to the teachings that they instilled in me, but also culturally. So
Mhm.
it's kind of easy. I'm gonna be honest with you. And what's so crazy in this industry? The more you say no, the more they want you. So
I believe
Yeah.
it. I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're like, what? And I don't know if I should say the show, but there was a show where I had to choreograph. I think it's a dance show where dancers go and compete. And
Oh.
and then I'm brought on as a challenge, me and other people too.
Mhm.
And then they pick like the culture that because they're trying to see how well you can
Yeah.
learn dance
Yeah.
forms. But and honestly, it's been like a great experience. But I always wish like, dang, can I bring my people on here and show you
Yep.
how we get down?
Mhm.
But these dancers have 6 hours. We have 3 days, 6 hours. Your time, literally, when bathroom break, they'll stop it. It's down to the nitty gritty. But
crazy.
I'm like, for me, I know they want things to be flashy and to appeal to the untrained eye, and
Mhm.
I've been now versed in that. But my whole thing though too is like, hey, if I have this platform, my name is on this,
Mhm.
in which my middle name is Nonosina. That encompasses a lot. My dad's last name Liufau is on there. First name me, I'm representing me, which comes to my students. Then I got to make sure I take the extra precaution. Like, I know I didn't have to use a theme every time I create a dance on that show,
Mhm.
and I don't think they really care. But I'm like, no, I want to tell a story because
Yep.
what are we besides navigators? We're storytellers.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
So, although sometimes people will say like, why did you, oh, it's kind of like a sellout, or like,
Mhm.
why would you go and, oh, I actually just did Real Housewives of, oh girl,
Yes,
I
we
almost said
saw
Atlanta
that.
because that's my favorite. Anyway,
Yeah.
I love all the rest of you guys, but Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always think about these things and I'm like, I mean, I don't have to say yes, but at the same time, they're gonna go to someone else. But if I have this platform, I want to make sure, and I have no problem having these conversations with the producers at this time in my life now, where like I will do this, but the minute that I feel like there's a mockery of my culture
Mhm.
or of my dancers or objectifying certain things, I will like low key walk off set.
Yeah.
So as long as I kind of set that, and it's like you can't walk in the street and just look for Polynesian dancers. So like,
Right.
nope, you reached out here. These are my terms and
Yes.
conditions, and it's
Yes.
not monetary.
Stand on it.
It's protecting.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I've said yes to some things where I was like, oh man, I don't know how this is gonna go. But luckily I'm versed enough to like, if somebody on camera were like, oh, this is like twerking, I'm able to, some people are not versed in what we do. They'll be like, oh,
Mhm.
I know,
Yeah.
right? But ooh, sis, I'm not the one.
Yeah.
I really will be like, well, to an untrained eye or a Western way of thinking, you might think that. But what's amazing about this culture is all
Mhm.
these movements actually mimic Mother Nature. So I'm able to like really kind of like
See,
revamp
Mhm.
that, but
I was
that's
gonna
through
I was gonna
trial
ask you
and
about
error.
that because I think sometimes as people of the culture, when people say things with a misunderstanding, we get
Right.
defensive, right?
Right.
We want to come
Mhm.
down, like, oh, what you, but that's their limited knowledge about. So it's not always easy, but taking the approach you did is I would say the best way is educating people
Mhm.
and taking their limited experience and knowledge
Right.
and saying, you know what, that's one way to look at it, but this
Yeah.
is this is
Yeah.
this is the actual way to see it,
But I
right?
learned the hard way though, because
Yeah.
she got a temper too. You know what I mean?
That's
So sometimes I'm like,
I'm
I
gonna say
went
something.
off, or even on social media, I saying
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to go, but then I'm like, you know what? You don't even deserve that energy. I'm not going to stoop down to your level
Exactly.
Mhm.
and give you that energy. I'm gonna, still do the good work
Mhm.
culturally and leave it at that. But I'm like, you know what? You have this platform, and then when we're on live TV,
Yes.
you got to be ready. And
Yeah.
luckily, through working with Disney, they were really up and up. And
Mhm.
the person that I was able that I work with me day to day, she's born and raised on Oahu. Very educated from Kamehameha schools, and she's a Kanaka. So I was
Mm.
able to talk to her in ways that maybe wouldn't nobody else would understand.
Yeah.
But they're really good. Like, hey, so this is Disney, almost like media training 101. But luckily, by the time I worked with them, I kind of been through every situation and made so many mistakes of like just going off on people
Mhm.
that I knew how to. And I literally teach every single day, every single class at Nonosina. There's the one that
Mhm.
teaches my classes for me,
Mhm.
and because I love it.
Yep.
But so I have to publicly speak about these things, and there's different energies every semester. There's
Mhm.
different whatever. So I'm come accustomed to that, and then honestly, just through my education as well, and my major, I majored. My major is called World Arts and Cultures, and I did cultural studies in dance.
UCLA, right?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I wasn't sure if you guys were Trojans, but
Yeah.
no, kidding. I would have never went to any college if I didn't find a major like that.
Yeah.
World Arts and Cultures. Nobody wants to send your kids to a school like that, spend all that money and
Mhm.
learn about different cultures.
Yeah.
Me, I was like, girl, sign me up.
Mhm.
Like, I want to live, eat, and breathe that, and then represent for our own people,
Mhm.
because it's not, everyone's all shocked when I was on campus. They're like, softball, basketball, shot put.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
track.
thank you.
All
I
the
could
stereotypes.
tell-
No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. I came here for a specific reason.
yeah, which I was happy to see all those faces,
Yeah.
there, but I was like, academics.
Yeah.
But shoot, what was I even talking about? Oh yeah, I'm able to, with all of those experiences and training that I've had in life, whether it be through academic institution, at home,
Mhm.
at the dance studio, in life, because I'm a talker. I'll talk to the bartender for like 10 hours. Has helped me in a very tasteful way,
Mhm.
kind of revamp these questions
Mhm.
that are being asked, or comments like that. And in all honesty, I mean, that's what my whole life's dedicated to, is like speaking on
Yeah.
a platform, whether it be my little studio in Anaheim or on the camera for Disney. So, and then on top of that, I have a responsibility. That might be that live segment where that's the first time anyone has a glimpse of like a Polynesian woman. And if I
Yeah.
pop off,
Mhm.
everyone's gonna be like, oh, they're all like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, if you make
Mhm.
us mad, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kidding.
You can get both sides. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's big. Did you, okay, so
No, sorry.
I'll be having questions, you know what I'm saying? I want to make sure y'all, I'm going to ask all my questions.
I
you
don't
know
know.
what I'm
It'd
saying?
be
Yeah.
kind of hard. It'd be like competition. I'm like, damn, bro. Like, I want to talk too.
Well, I'm a Scorpio, and no. I'm kidding.
Oh my God, what's your moon?
It's Hina always. I'm kidding.
Your dance group has accomplished so much before you and during your time. How do you envision the next, kind of like the next generation?
Ooh.
What do you envision that legacy looking like?
Ooh. Before I even talk about that, I really like the way you worded that. I'm really big on giving props where they're due.
Hmm.
Before I introduce myself or acknowledge myself, I always mention, just for the Nonosina lineage, I always mention my grandma first.
Do it, yeah.
Estela Nonosina Reed. And then she was the one who put a name to a space where Polynesian culture can thrive. And so she started that. And then it was handed down to my mom, Ricky Mangmia Liufau. And then my brother, Mavinga Maxwell Liufau Jr. Sound like a little R&B star. He was still low key. And then myself. So I kind of like the way that you position that question, because I'm really big on that. Because I'm getting into something else that I will come back. I do feel like a big part of Polynesian culture is that, like in Samoan tato, right? In Hawaiian kako, and Tahitian tato, it's us. It's the village mentality. And it's not so much I. And I feel like that gets really lost here outside of Polynesia. And I say this, but I'm born and raised here too. But I've been very fortunate to go back to the islands to make sure I'm smelling it, feeling it, just observing it. But a lot of things get lost where it's like, how does that benefit me? Like, what about me? I. But actually, it's one of the pillars of, to me, being a Polynesian is the village mentality.
Yeah.
Right? However, which way, shape, or form. And that village looks different wherever we go because of where we're raised. Our environment molds us, right? So the future for Nonosina is, Polynesian dance in general or Nonosina?
I want to hear more about Nonosina. Yeah.
In all honesty, I wanted to keep along the lines of what my grandma had in heart and in mind, and in her she was Samoan, but a very proud one at that. She did marry Hawaiian though. But anyway, in her na'au is to keep a home outside of home for anyone who never had a home. It's somewhere you can call home. It's somewhere you can call home. And one thing that she was big on is, you don't have to be Polynesian to partake in our social dances and music, but there are some things that should be kept for ourselves as well when it comes to protocol, when it comes to, things that are sacred to us. But through music and dance, my goal for Nonosina is that it thrives to be a place that accepts all if you respect our teachings. And maybe you learn a lot about yourself through the Polynesian lens, but in honesty, maybe, so it's not going to bring in your, we're not going to make $1 million, we're not going to whatever, but we are doing something rich in culture, rich in love through a Polynesian lens.
Yep.
And one thing that I love teaching at Nonosina is, my mom started this. We have the dancers do their intros, and man, at our shows, it'd be like 10 years long, like, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. But we teach the kids to introduce themselves full name, their age, and then where their ancestors come from. And the reason why we do that is because so many of these kids are learning about Polynesian culture that they now they're like, oh, I wish I was Polynesian. I have so many kids that cry to their parents because they're not rooted in there. It's like how come we're not Samoan? Like, how come I want to be Tahitian, you know? And as much as that is like, wow, that's so touching. It's like, hey, you come from a rich history too.
Yeah.
You're just learning through, us and and through this triangle of our ancestors, but you need to call upon your ancestors too. And they're with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing too, we encourage the kids to learn their intros in their language. So at
I
our
love that.
recitals, even though they're say they're going to do a Siva Samoa, they do their intros in Spanish. They do the intros in Japanese or even other Polynesian languages.
That's cool.
You know, like there was a group of girls that did their intros in Tongan, then they did the Siva Samoa. To me, I'm like, some people will be like, you should have just did your taulunga, but it's like, hey, don't forget though, we all come from the same va'a. We actually come from the same place.
Yeah.
So to separate us is actually you have to decolonize your mind. You are also probably the same person that thinks the ocean separates us. You know what I mean? You're probably the same person that is talking smack on all the other islands, but it's like, if you do your ancestry DNA, you probably got all those islands in you too.
Yeah.
So my goal for Nonosina is that it just continues to thrive to be a place of learning in the name of Polynesia. And then actually, I would really love to we are for profit, but I really, really, really want to step into the nonprofit. I want to start a different chapter of not so much Nonosina, but maybe a new chapter, nonprofit work.
Ooh, gotta wait on
That's
that.
awesome.
2023.
That's awesome.
A side question, because I've been to a lot of different competitions and seen.
Oh, nice.
I always wondered: is there a difference between when you dance competitively versus for entertainment, education purposes? Is there a difference in terms of how you approach dance in that respect?
Yeah, there is. I think in every dance form too, like you look at commercial dancers, hip hop, hitting it over there at like Millennium or 1, 2, 3, and 4,
Yeah.
and they kill it.
Yeah.
As opposed to like maybe b-boy culture where they're like, we don't care less about
Yeah.
that. And then salsa too. You have like street, and then you have competitive kind. Yeah, there's a difference with Polynesian because competition circuit is so big now, and I judge a lot of competitions. In Polynesia and over here too, there is a different way you have to approach it. Competition is, I don't want to say purely, if you talk about solo competition, it's all technique.
Yeah.
And that's a skill in itself. But where the tricky part is now we're uplifting technique, and then what about the cultural aspect and the essence, right?
Yes.
Whereas, but see, performance, I love teaching the dancers this too. And this is something I'm also making sure I hold myself accountable. There's a difference between cultural performance and cultural practice.
Yeah.
Because some just want to perform and be up there on stage, and then you're going to get schooled if you wear lashes or not, you know what I mean? Or like if the lighting is whatever. Then you have cultural practice where something very specific like Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea a couple of years back in Hawaii, it wasn't even about performance or competition, but you had people from the hula competition world or reared in hula, poe hula, that were on the mountain and like have so many accolades, so many titles in the competition world, stripped all down and like, no, we're protecting our sacred land. And to me, I'm like, no, I'd rather do that than perform, judge, do anything with any kind of movie or musical artist. To me, this is like the real work. Because guess what? Without that sacred mountain, all those songs that are written about that sacred mountain and all the gods and goddesses that come along with it, erased.
Yeah.
So that's something, you know what? I just answered that question without even realizing it. The future of Nonosina, I really want to get more into cultural practice than performance. There will always be a performance aspect. We have to approach it different because when you have performance, you do have to make sure you get across to the audience. Maybe they didn't even know they got a free ticket from their homegirl. They came to whatever. Maybe they're interested. Maybe they're low-key a hater, but they're there. You have to make sure it crosses the audience as a whole. So there has to be a performance aspect of it. You have to have formations.
Yep.
I don't think our ancestors gave, two damns about formations and if your costume was like your ear was hemmed or not. But you do have to, especially being raised here, come on now, where Hollywood right there. So we're held to that standard too. Future Nonosina, I would love cultural practice, not just Polynesia, but we're on the lands that don't belong to us. So I do want to get in touch with like the Tongva Nation or, the nations here where they allow us to thrive and do what we do
Yes.
on their land.
Mhm.
That
That's
is the
dope.
future. And if I don't hurry up and have kids, I don't know who's gonna do it. My 2 dogs. No I'm kidding.
Man, we've had a lot of candid conversations on this
Mhm.
couch about different things that we get very vulnerable sometimes. I think that's the power in conversation, is just being vulnerable and talking about the things that maybe we kind of shy away from. And one of the things we talked about was at times being afagasi and
Mm.
not feeling
Yeah, I was
Samoan
Enough.
enough, not feeling Polynesian enough.
Mm.
Even if you are full, maybe
Right.
you're not
Mhm.
embracing the culture fully, right?
Oh, really good
all,
topic.
all of these
Mhm.
different feelings that you experience as a Polynesian, and you may be doing everything you think and then someone's like, you didn't do it enough, or
Or you don't speak enough.
or that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
The enough, the enough. How do you deal with
Ooh.
being enough?
Man, this is so good. I I've battled with that a lot, not only just as a Polynesian, but even like as a teacher, as a drummer, as whatever. Couple things. How do I deal with that with myself or with
Yeah.
ooh, it just
I would,
got really hot
I
in
would love
here.
to. I would love
Yeah.
to hear both sides from yourself,
Okay.
and then also
Just your
when you
perspective.
bring in students that are Afakasi, or like they're
Have
they're
tons.
born here in
Yeah.
America, they don't know nothing about the culture,
Right.
but obviously that's the best way to learn is
Oh
to
my gosh.
dance.
Yeah.
You know what's so cool? I didn't know what we were going to talk about, but
Mhm.
I teach my students. I'll address the students first, whether they're Afkasi or not, whether they're Polynesian or not. But then I always dial in on the ones that are, and a lot of my students are Afkasi, whether they're half Samoan, Tongan, what have you, part Hawaiian. But I always tell them this is my favorite quote to the dancers, and I always unleash this quote in the beginning of the year. I always say, whenever you feel like you're not enough, you remember you come from a race of warriors.
Mm.
And that has gotten me through so much. Like, low key, I want to make a shirt that says that.
Do it. I'll
It's
help
like
you.
race of warriors. And that's what we do. And specifically Polynesians do. We are warriors, whether it be, on the va'a or literally in war or, like protecting our family, our village, whatever
Mhm.
it is. Man, we're such warriors. And I always tell them that's why like our ancestors are so important. Like you are standing on top of the shoulders of your ancestors. You are enough. And I always tell the dancers too, you're never alone. You're
Mhm.
never alone. When you feel you're alone, right behind you, right beside you is your grandparents, your great grandparents, your ancestors you never even met. Man, they're with you.
Mhm.
And I have to remind myself that too, because sometimes I do, feel, which I'll share something very specific, so it makes maybe a little more sense. But for the dancers, I do have a lot of Afkasi. I do. The first thing they say is like,
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, what's your last name? And then they'll be like, oh, but I get this a lot. Oh, I don't want to name a name because then, well, I can use my family's last name. I'm a Reed, R-E-I-D, because we have a R-E-E-D. But shout out to them too, because that's family too.
Mhm.
Yep.
But they'll be like, oh, it's not Samoan though. It's Reed. I'm like, oh, let me stop you there. This is a very like your name, just because it might not be in Samoan, there is a lot of power in mana. If we have a Polynesian last name, that doesn't make you any less than.
Say that.
It doesn't make you any less than.
Thank you for saying that.
In all honesty,
Mhm.
do you think like a Samoan or are you trying to learn the Samoan way? To me, you can learn, okay, now language. If maybe you were born and raised in, at home speaking Tongan or Samoan, Hawaiian, Tahitian, Modi, whatever it is, it doesn't make you less, but don't forget you can always learn.
Right.
Mhm.
You can always learn. But what is more important is your perspective. Is your
Yeah.
perspective Polynesian? The fact that you know that you cannot wear the little Daisy Dukes around these elders, or when you have to put on your ears
Yes.
too low.
Yeah.
To me, that is actually a beautiful place to start.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about all the elements you can learn. Now we have programs at Lingafa, which I'm a graduate, so shout out to Lingafa.
That part.
And a lot of key people that are creating these programs for you to learn.
Yeah.
So you can learn, but I actually like your perspective and the way you think. That's a great place to start. So a lot of my kids, they feel less than, or
Mhm.
man, I wish I had dark hair. I'm like, hey, you know what? All the ones that have dark hair want light hair, okay? I
That
want to
part.
have black eyes like myself. They want the light, and then the light want the dark. So you know what? No, you take what you have, and as long as you know, and of course we're gonna be like, even the old school ones, like my grandma would be like, oh gosh, she don't even look Samoan, but it's like, well, what does that even look like anymore? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Because like, I don't know. So I mean, there's that whole thing,
Mhm.
and our people are the first too. Like, oh, you don't look. Or you know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
Or if they're Afkasi, or maybe there's some that look full on poly and they're like, or and then they say like, "Oh, I'm part German." My grandma was first be like, "Pepelo, you're not German." But I don't know. It's
That's my grandma too.
I think it's all of our grandmas.
Yeah.
No, but I just tell them, no, you are enough, and if you don't feel like you're enough, then like maybe there's so many resources out there now,
Yeah.
and us normalizing these conversations can help that.
Yes, I agree.
For me, I received my Maru Samoa a couple of years ago, and from Suruape Si'i Liufau, which to me was very special because we're immediate family. And traditionally, you had your tufunga that would, be the one to conduct that or, do that, curate your body. That was really special for me. And I come from a long line of mainly my dad's side, where they didn't practice the malu or the pe'a, and a lot of it had to do with church. And I had that conversation with my dad if, I wanted to embark on that journey. And man, I was so surprised that I was going to be like, no, but he said, as long as you know what that means and you're ready to partake that journey in your life, he said, that starts your journey. What's crazy is my dad never talks. He grills. He owns Matiki Island Barbecue. Shout out to you guys, to us.
Shout out.
And then he rules with the iron fist. There's no explanation. And literally it's so awkward to have that conversation because we're not that kind of house like, hey, Dad, how was your day? What are your thoughts on the bed? So when he said that, I was like, what was it? I was expecting the whole sasa thing. And then I was like, whoa, that kind of took me by surprise. And then I did battle even leading up to the conversation because I'm like, I felt like I wasn't Samoan enough.
Imposter syndrome.
Yes, always. And like, I'm not fluent enough or I'm, like I didn't even, and now we associate things that are very Samoan, which is a beautiful thing, the White Sunday. But I actually grew up Mormon where we didn't do White Sunday. We have our other, things. But so there's always things that we're going to feel like, this or that. And then I didn't, I was like, okay, well, like who else is going to get it with me? Like the soul, like, because you want to lean on that person. But after having a lot of conversations with my cousin, CE, and then just like relying on like what I felt here, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And it was knowing that you lay on that mat and you're there for hours, which my auntie Kiki from San Diego, Solia, she was right by my side the whole entire time because she went through that process and she is such a culture keeper in our community and for our island of Samoa.
I'm so happy you brought up Auntie Kiki. I love Auntie Kiki.
Oh man, she's like...
Shout out Tapo Samoa.
All day. That's like
that's my dance troupe.
Hey, alumni. Okay. I know. She's such a pillar in the community and having her sit there with me that went through this and she kept telling me too, like, you're enough. And then she held my hand upon the first strike and man, that like
well, I just got the chills.
Yeah,
I
really
got the chills
about it,
too. And I felt, man, so much mana and I told her exactly what I felt. I shared with her and I'll only share it with her. And it was just like a really amazing moment, what I actually felt in holding her hands and just that transferring of that mana and that pain. When I say mana, it's not, there's good mana, there's bad mana. You know what I mean? That pain. Ooh, that pain. And knowing that your ancestors endured this and they have not been altered, the markings on this body. And you have the ceremony right after. And you look around, everyone has their ear on. If there's music going. I have my brother Zale over there, Monga, and Graham, Wangu Tutia, they were jamming music. My brother Voka was supposed to be there, but was kind of sick at the time. Knowing that they're there and then their voices singing, their mana is there. I look over and see my mom and my dad and my aunties, my family. I was like, man, all the pain, even through the good and the bad, I'm looking at all these faces that we've been through. Man, when it comes down to it, something so organic and so Samoan, we hear. Set aside our differences, and having Auntie Kiki there, she was a huge part of this for me. Having Auntie Kiki there sit on the mat, she did not have to sit there. That is queen, man. Having her sit there from beginning to end, my malu, I was like, she is actually transferring to me the reminder of the Samoan woman I have to be upon the completion of these markings on my body. She still came all the way, sat down, folded her legs, sat with me, talked to me, encouraged me. And look what she does after, she left, my ceremony and everything. It's a reminder, like, it wasn't that I wasn't enough. It's now I have to hold myself accountable on this new journey. And that right there was when I realized, like, hey, forget this. Are we enough? What are you going to do after? What are you going to do after that? Now, this is a very outward expression of you being a Samoan. Now you have to exemplify that and live that.
Yeah.
I'll be falling short, but I'll pick myself right back up. And when
That
I
part.
think I'm not enough, honestly, I do look at my legs, and I've had a lot of other malus that tell me the same thing. When you think you're not enough, you're not enough. You look down on your legs and you remember you are enough.
Wow.
And no, man, I don't want to
powerful.
cry over here.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
No, and
My cousin just got his in Missouri, and so they had like a bunch of guys doing it at the same time, and they called us in on some of the sessions, and just like hearing it happening, I'm like sitting there like,
You never
Like,
forget that sound.
there's
Yeah.
still a danger to it all. My namesake actually passed away from doing his, and he passed away a year before I was born. And he went to Samoa to get his bell. His name was Sale Savannah, and he passed away. Passed away from doing it, and it's such a big thing. You don't go in it alone.
Right.
Never go in it alone. And so I think that's something we should also talk about too. The pain of it all. It's such a big, deep thing that non-polys probably don't know about.
man.
Those stories aren't always told.
Yeah.
Sale, though, that's beautiful that you spoke his name so we don't forget. But there was recently a coverage too on through social media that in Samoa, one of the girls, a lot of them came actually. What I don't want to. Once I name one name, I got to name all. But she shared this story of she's like the backstory is the infection.
Yeah.
And she had to go to the hospital. And then she felt like, man, maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe these are the spirits telling me, the ancestors, you weren't. But it's like, no, it happens a lot more than what we think.
Yeah.
And then it's that pain. And through that pain, overcoming. And sometimes our body isn't able to. But hence his life, you know what I mean? So, Sale, though, I won't forget that.
Man, that was such a powerful kind of train of thought to kind of lead us towards the end of our discussion, because those words, I want them to be echoed throughout every conversation we have. Is you are enough. You're enough women. You're enough man. You're enough Polynesian. You're enough Samoan. You're enough. Whatever you're trying to do, if you think about what we come from as a people, what we've accomplished prior to this whole like we're enough. We have the spirit of our ancestors guiding us, and we are enough. So. If I can title this episode, I'm gonna just call it "We're Enough." You know what I'm saying? You're enough. You know what I'm saying? And actually, the title of this podcast is called "We All Win," and that's something that we carry with us as a group, as a village mentality, right? Is we all win when we do it together, and when we do it the right way. So you're someone that we consider someone who's doing it the right way, and you're bringing our people, and you're teaching, you're sharing light and love, and educating and doing it in a way that inspires all of us. You've been doing it for so long, and I know that your legacy will continue on with the next generation. So giving you your flowers, and thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing your thoughts. We need a few more hours to finish
like you said, we're in town. Let's get together.
I live right there.
Awesome.
I have like just one last question that I would love for you to just speak on as we're closing out. Not only you're a woman, you're a Samoan woman, but you're also part of the LGBTQ community plus. I feel like there's a lot of underlining things within our Polynesian culture where we don't necessarily talk about, identifying as whatever you want to identify as. And so I feel like a lot of people that are going to be tapping in, and this will resonate with a lot of kids who are gay or who are, lesbian or bi or, they're whatever they choose to identify with. What are some of maybe just a token that you can give to them to keep strong within the culture, to always remember that they are, a part of us and we accept them as they are?
Oh my gosh, there's amazing films out there right now. Polynesian films by Polynesians, starring Polynesians that will kind of help guide them. But this is a beautiful question, and this is what I actually tell so I never lead with that, like I guess you could call it sexual preference, right?
Yeah.
I don't lead with that. And not because I'm shamed. Oh, I'm not shamed, but I want to be known. Actually, I want to be Auntie first. I want to be the drummer. I want to be the creative and all that good stuff. But I have no shame. People do ask me to talk at different events to speak about that. And as a Polynesian, and I respectfully say no, but I want to share with you why. I'm going to be honest, I've been very blessed. I haven't struggled with that, not only internally, but with my community.
Yeah.
I've been blessed. So I'm not going to speak upon, this for this community when I haven't had that real struggle. But there's others out there, maybe they're ashamed to talk about it, but it's gonna speak to people because I've been blessed to have acceptance in where it counts. So that's why I respectfully say no. But if I can, help out in any other way with dance, I use dance for life. So a beautiful thing about dance is you have to have the duality of male and female mana to be a complete dancer. You have to have the duality of ku and hina to be complete. It's not just feminine energy, not just male. And then in a Samoan way of thinking, I was taught by my whaia o ngā moni that the males will always have authority and the women will always have the mana. To have the two, I feel like the living manifestation is through the music and dance in what I do. So you got to have both. You got to have both, whether it's like you execute a move a little bit more masculine, even though I'm like, well, what is masculine? Because I feel like I have that energy all day, every day, but I love being a woman. So I think just having the duality of the two, and then if you exist only within that liminal space, then that's not a bad thing. It's beautiful. And actually, if you do your Polynesian history, there is a space for mahu way back. Every single island, they were known to be the ones with the most power, actually. And for some reason, they were always the music and dance people. Hey. So I'm just one of those. No,
I love it.
Thank you guys for having me, though. Man, and everything that I do, honestly, at the end of the day, even though it's like a Western word, I love that no matter what I do, the stamp at the end of the day isn't even like, oh, Tiana did that. It's a Polynesian did that. And I will do anything and everything to represent and uphold and uplift my people. So. Word.
That's love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Your presence is felt.
Thank
it's
you.
felt.
Thank you.
This day will always be remembered for two things. We had Tiana on the show and we had Rihanna on the same day.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure.
I'm trying to meet Paris. You guys know
Tiana
Paris?
on Riri Sunday.
Yeah,
you know
Paris.
No.
Hit us up, girl.
What's up, Paris?
Two commentators?
Hey,
Four.
that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
No, man, I'm just. We need a part 2 for sure. So
for sure.
Make it
I'm
happen.
down, and then I can bring in some instruments and share with you guys. Traditional instruments.
No, we coming
that
to
are
your
forgotten.
studio. We coming to your
Oh no,
studio.
for sure.
Yeah,
We
we're
can do
pulling
that
up.
next time.
Yeah, we
The
come
next
to your
time,
place.
we can honestly get that going pretty soon.
Yeah.
If that's awesome,
We'll do a dance
that.
class.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not afraid. I'm going to dance. What's happening? I'm here. I'm ready.
The new halftime show.
Oh,
I'm ready.
period.
Oh,
Okay.
We're inviting you, Paris.
Let's do it. Hey.
You're also invited. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
guess,
Tiana.
Yeah, please.
All right, man. Island Mogul, Tiana, tapping out, man. We all win.
And when I'm up, then we all win.